Hey guys, so we're near the end of the Subaru here. Sorry, it's doing fine, the Subaru project. There's a concern with it smoking a bit when it's running, like burning oil or grease or something, and it was so nasty under there from before, from all the leaks, that I wasn't sure if we had old grease we were burning off, if we had a new current leak, or what was going on. So I wish I would have recorded this, but last night I got out the super clean and used it 100% concentrated, sprayed the whole underside of the car down, especially the engine, transmission, transaxle, all that stuff, all that fun stuff. Let it sit for a while, and then I loaded up my car ramps, my knee pads, my light. I headed over to the local car wash. I dragged it in there, and you're not supposed to do this, I know, but I set up my ramps, drove this thing up on there, and proceeded to pressure wash the underside. Didn't bring the camera because I thought, you know, somebody's going to tell me to get out. I'd have to hurry up and sneak in and sneak out real quick. Incognito-like, if you will, but nobody said a word. I even got a have a good evening, sir, when I left. So, I don't know, technically I guess that's washing your vehicle, not doing mechanical work. So, thought if they saw the ramps, that would be the first go-to comment. But no, we were fine. So, let's get underneath this thing and we'll see if any new leaks have appeared. Since that wash, all I did was drive it home like maybe 5K tops. It's just it dried off overnight, but don't know if that's enough time for anything new to leak. But let's go take a look under there. I've got my dolly with a headlight. Got another light under there. We're up on the quick stands, so should be lots of room under there. All right. So the first thing I see is a little bit of leaking here at the transmission cooler lines. I didn't have these apart when I did the head gasket, but we're just gonna go ahead and give these a little more tightening. There we go, that should be good. Okay, let me get my pinpoint light out here. Okay, our first look is at the job we did. So, we've got the valve cover gasket here, the blue rubber seal. The gray here is the RTV seal we did between the cam caps and the head. And over here, that's our head gasket right there. That line you can see there. So, everything's looking dry. And dry at the front of the engine. There's our thermostat, all good. Oil pan looks good, all sealed nicely. It's hard to see some of this with the brackets and everything in the way, but oil cooler looking good. Front of the engine over here. Same gaskets on this side, all dry. Nothing leaking on this side. There's our nice new CV axles. Looking spiffy, and there's the boots we did on the end of the steering rack, the bellows. So, steering rack, all nice and dry and clean. Here's the other end. This is the driver's side with the axle. Boy, that degreaser did a good job. You remember how gross this was here, right? Looking pretty decent here. It didn't get all of this grease because I can't pressure wash directly up, but I got as much as I could with an angle. So that might still, we should I'll manually wipe this off with a rag in a little bit here, just so we have a clean slate completely, because that's the only spot that stayed dirty. This is the one area I was concerned about. There's a seal in here, and you see that sprocket looking thing around the axle? They call it a sundial, and once it's out, it does look like a sundial, but there's a special tool to remove that. Plus that sundial there, it's a bearing retainer. It retains a bearing in the transaxle as well, and it puts preload on the bearing, so that's set from the factory. So you have to really mark the position carefully and take that out to change the seal. There's a seal inside it you got to punch out. So I'm really hoping it's not that, because that means we have to take these axles back off. We need to buy a special tool. Company 23 makes one. It's a tool 509, I believe it's called. So we would have to go get ourselves one of those. Transmission filter's dry. Transmission pan is dry, which is a miracle because that was just soaked, remember? All looks good and dry. There's the starter. And there, if you see, is the cap on one of the camshafts that we put on again. It's nice and dry at the back of the engine. I don't see any issues there. Let's go check the other side real quick. Well, that's the transmission, nice and dry on this side. And there's the cap on that end of the engine. Also looks good. So our engine work has not failed us. Here's the sundial and seal on this side. At the moment, nice and dry. Incidentally, that yellow dipstick up there, tiny little dipstick, I accessed it from the top yesterday, cleaned it all off, and checked the level for the front differential. It's got 80-90 weight gear oil in it. Because I was concerned if we were leaking from these seals, we would probably see a level drop, and it is plumb full, right to the top, right where it's supposed to be. So I don't think we're leaking from there. I really don't. So that was my realization yesterday. And the fluid's perfectly clear, so I don't think we're going to mess with that. No leaks here. No leaks at the back. There is one spot back here. This is the end of the transmission where the output shaft is to go to the back, the drive shaft. That we're going to have to keep an eye on too. And I see a bunch of splattering up there. So that is a potential for leaking. And it looks like something's been burning on the exhaust here. I don't know if that's new, old, or what right now though. So this area does concern me a little bit. Although that seal will be a lot easier to change than the other ones. Exhaust looking good. Center bearing is dry. And we'll go back to the rear transaxle. That seal looks okay. And I didn't degrease back here actually, only at the front there, so that's all dry where the rear drive shafts come out. All looking good. And I did notice this has yellow paint on it, like it's been changed. And they put yellow paint on the front differential too, so I don't know if this one, I don't know how recently this one's done. At the bottom, the drain plug's pretty buggered up. So I might see if I can get the plug out and change the diff fluid while we're in here kind of thing, because it's good to check that. Well, maybe we'll at least pull the top one out and see if we see any level in there and see how clear it is. Other than that, nice and dry on the driver's outboard side of the axle. Nothing leaking there, no brake fluid leaks or anything. This thing's in really good shape under here. Check this out. No rust. Looks like it was undercoated. Same with this side. Uh-oh, what have we got here? Miscellaneous cable? Uh-oh, where did this belong? Where does it go? Somebody got it wound around here to keep it from falling down until they fix it or something? What is this? Goes back around. Where's this plug in? Oh. I think somebody actually just picked this up on the road and wound around the axle. It's not connected anywhere. Nope. Doesn't actually do anything. That's good news. Fixed it. No fuel leaks. Exhaust is a little bit rusty, but not leaking. This thing's perfectly quiet. Uh-oh. Okay. Well, we've got a broken lead on the rear oxygen sensor. Although it isn't throwing any codes, so I wonder if that's a heater lead or something on one of the grounds maybe. No, it's a white wire. There's still some copper exposed there. I wonder if we can just solder this back on. We might try that. Yeah, you can see the transmission has the same yellow paint by about the same vintage looking. So they probably did a whole service underneath here at some point. I just don't know when that was. But the front diff fluid was super clear. So we tightened those front lines already. Let's see if we can solder this connector, and then we'll open up the rear diff. And we'll at least see what the fluid looks like. If it's perfectly clear, then we won't bother draining. Okay, here at the rear end, just pulled the plug out with one of these, just a 1/2 inch drive. And the front was so clean that I figured the back probably was changed at the same time. And the level is right up to the fill point, and it's super clean, so I'm not going to bother draining this. There's no point. And obviously it's right up to the right level because the Q-tip's at the right level and it's leaking out of there slowly, so it's definitely up at the fill plug. So I think this thing's been serviced recently, to be honest. Let's tighten this back up. When you do one of these, always make sure you do the fill port before you do the drain port, because if you can't get this one out and you got this one out, now you're screwed. Ain't no way to put fluid back in. So what's with the weird star on the back? What does that mean? It's interesting. Well, it appears that someone is not housebroken. I don't know if this is a kangaroo type thing or if they can be trained, but yeah. Antifreeze. Prestone Universal brand, I believe. Well, let's take her up. Okay, so our overflow bottle is a third of the way up from low to full, so it's lost a cupful or so of antifreeze. And I don't immediately see a culprit, to be honest. At least not up here. Remember, we had a leak here from this clamp not being tight enough, but I don't see any fresh coolant there. We did replace the O-rings on the crossover pipe, but I would expect a puddling of antifreeze up on top of the engine. I mean, unless it dried up from the engine being warm, that's possible. Certainly no puddles. Kind of really hard to see. Is that one clamp a little damp there on the lower heater hose there? Might actually be. And the reason I'm looking in this area is, let me take you down below. I've already been snooping around under here, and I got good news and bad news. The good news is our head gaskets are dry. Those are valve cover gaskets, both sides of the engine, and so is the oil pan. Nice and dry. So is the filter cooler. A little bit of weeping there maybe at this one connection. Unless that was still greasy. I can't remember if we cleaned that or not. I don't know if we did. Drain plug's good. No further greasy spots under here, but antifreeze right there. And I think that's what's making the cover wet back here too. I don't think that's actually oil leaking. Actually, maybe a little bit. Even gooder news, we have no leaks on the sundials. There's some really hard to change seals there. That one's dry. And so is this one. So that is amazingly good news. I don't see anything wet over here. Those heater lines are going to be right there. Actually, is that wet? Yeah, I think it is. Looking right here, guys. Where my finger is there. I think that's wet. And that would drip down here to the boot. So I'm going to see if I can tighten that clamp some more. Back here we do have a little weeping on the transmission pan though. That is transmission fluid there, it's red. So I'm going to look up the torque spec on this pan and I remember we torqued it down before, but I can't remember if we just torqued it sort of finger tight just as a test, or if we actually torqued it properly, but go ahead and retorque those. Otherwise, we stayed really clean and dry under here for, I think I put 300k on the car now, so that's pretty good. Remember, some of the wet right now is just, I mean, snow. snow dripping everywhere under here, but yeah, dry otherwise. Okay, enough jabber. Let's look up the torque spec here and we'll tighten that clamp on that heater hose and then we'll try it out, see if it helped. Plan.
It's disconnected.
She's pretty loose. Any of you guys wondering if you can tame a roo, domesticate it, bring it inside, house train it, break it, whatever you want to call it? The answer is yes, you can. It's right under the car, so call that a success. Okay, small update. That worked. However, after the work on the CV axles and the steering rack boots, a problem cropped up. I don't think I held the inner, when we spun off the outer end of the steering rack, the inner rod spun in the rack and that threw the alignment out, so we need to do an alignment. Despite all our efforts. So yeah, unfortunately the list got a little longer on us again. Sorry about that.